When we read the Bible, we think it's an old book, describing things that happened unnumbered years ago. As I tell you, it's contemporary. You read about the flood, and we think, well, certainly that happened unnumbered. If it ever did happen, it happened unnumbered years ago. Well, this morning, as is my custom, I turned on the channel KFAC, that is a radio station. It plays through the day and night, 24 hours a day. Only lovely classical music, so you can read to that music. Only a few interruptions. On the hour, you get a 5-minute bulletin and weather report. But between 9 and 10, it's always a lovely piano recital, as it were. The great masterpieces played by great artists. And so I can sit down with my Bible and read as I listen to the music. And the one interruption that came today was an ad from the Herald Examiner. And they were advertising this paper as the one paper in our city that gives the facts, only facts, not embellished. No frills, just plain facts, all facts. That's why we should buy that paper, because it's simply filled with facts. Well, facts have overflowed the world like the flood. Man actually is drowned with facts, victimized by facts. It is in the imagination that everything lives, and not in its actuality, not in the fact. Unless imagination penetrates the fact, the deluge remains a deluge. We are now in the deluge. This is the flood. A man is in jail, that's a fact. And he knows he's there for X number of years, that's a fact. And he simply waits and hopes that in some strange way that he will get some early release from this confinement. He never uses his imagination, save in some violent way to get out, but to penetrate the fact. When in March of 1943, by using my imagination to penetrate the fact that I too was in prison in the army, but I didn't want any part of it. And so I simply penetrated the fact and saw myself in New York City in my own apartment with my family. And in 9 days, I was out honorably discharged in my apartment in New York City. So I wrote a friend of mine who was in the army. He was my age. He was a Freudian, a professional psychoanalyst. But Freud was his background. That was his schooling. And when I wrote him in detail exactly what I had done, I didn't mince matters. I told him exactly what I did. How as I simply physically slept on my little bed in the barracks, I imagined I was simply elsewhere, and the elsewhere was a definite spot in space, in New York City, in my apartment. And what I did, I could feel the bed, I could feel the things in my house. I went about feeling all the familiar objects in my apartment, and I gave them all the tones of reality and all sensory vividness to the best of my ability. And I touched everything, and it felt real. Then I went back to sleep, and then I told them exactly what happened to me that morning. And then 9 days later, I was honorably discharged by the same man that had disallowed my application. He didn't answer my letter. Because in New York City, he used to come to my meetings as a friend, because he was so convinced that the Freudian concept was true. But he said, I come to your meetings for this reason, Neville. We knew each other well. He'd come home for dinner, I'd go to his place for dinner, but he said, I come to your meetings because you turn my daily bread into the substance of fairy. I sort of like that, he said. But when I listen to you, I hold the chair And I put my feet right firmly on the ground to feel the reality and the profundity of things. You aren't going to take me away with you. You're going to leave me right here where things are solidly real, so I feel the place under my foot, and I feel the things next to my hand, and I hold on tightly as you weave your story concerning moving off in one's imagination. So he would not penetrate the facts. So when did he get out? When the other millions got out. So he remained with his facts for the next 3 years. I got out in March of 43. He came home to New York City in 46, demobilized as the other millions and millions of boys were. He could not let go of the facts. This is the flood. No other flood. This is the flood. We are drowned with facts, victimized by them. Now, does the Bible teach this story of getting through the facts using my imagination? It certainly does. Now let me take you into the 27th chapter of the book of Genesis, the first book, the book of the beginning. If you're not familiar with the story of Isaac and his 2 sons, they were twins. Let me just refresh your memory if you've forgotten. It is said in the story that Isaac had, that is, his wife had the 2 sons, Rebekah, but he was the father of the 2 sons, Esau and Jacob. It is said that Esau was a hairy one. He came out first. And then Jacob came out second, and he had no hair. He was completely hairless, while Esau was covered in hair from head to foot. But he was the first. One was called Esau, and one was called Jacob, because he came out second and supplanted the other. Now we are told that when the father Isaac was old, and his eye was dim so that he could not see, in other words, he was blind, he said to his son Esau, I want you to go into the fields and hunt and bring me some well-prepared, tasty venison as I like it, savory venison. We are told that Rebekah, who loved her second son more than she did the first, overheard the conversation between Esau and his father. And then because she loved Jacob and wanted Jacob to get the blessing, for the father feels his days are numbered, and he must now give his blessing to one of his sons, and the first one must get it. So the mother told Jacob what she had heard, and then suggested that we take one of the kids from the flock, and we kill it, and take the skins of the kid and put it upon you, so that you will have the appearance of Esau. Esau thought otherwise. He said, suppose my father discovers it. Then Jacob said, suppose my father discovers it. And the mother said, leave that to me. It will be on my shoulder if he discovers it. And send Jacob into the field to bring a kid. Well, he took that kid and brought it tastily prepared for his father. He came quickly into the presence of the father. And the father said to him, come near, that I may feel you, my son, whether you are my son Esau or not. So Jacob came near to Isaac his father, who felt him. And then Isaac said to Jacob, the voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And then he blessed him. He gave him his blessing. He had no sooner left the presence of his father when Esau comes in now with savory venison. And the father said, well, who was it that came? For I have already eaten. Who came? And then he discovered it was his son Jacob who came with guile and betrayed him. But said the father, I have given him your blessing and I cannot retract it. And blessed he is. All will serve him. Everyone will serve him. Because I gave you the blessing and I cannot take it back. Now on the surface, you will say, now what is the story trying to tell us? Well, in this same book, in an earlier passage, we are told about the ark. Build the ark with 3 decks, the lower, the second, and the third deck. Well, you think it's a huge, big building. Well, you use your imagination. You can't conceive of any building that could house all the animals of the world in pairs, and all the so-called good ones will be in 7 pairs, and enough food to feed them for 40 days and 40 nights. Well, you just simply could not conceive of it. Nevertheless, that's the story. But there are 3 decks. The obvious thing is the facts of life. Then there's psychological interpretation of these so-called stories, and then the spiritual consummation of the story. So you have the lower deck, the second deck, and then the third deck. So here is a perfect example of the second deck. This room now is a fact. We're all in the room. It's a fact. But suppose I don't want to be here. Can I get out of it? If I know how to penetrate the fact. If I know that I am the ark. That all things exist in the human imagination. And the human imagination and God are one. They are one, not two. I can, in my imagination, penetrate any wall. I can now, without batting an eye, the twinkle of an eye, I can stand on the street and see this thing without a man standing before it.